Alrighty, what's up guys? So not really a street race video, it's more of like an RC No Prep video, and showing you guys what the R1 ESC does and what the settings offer. So this right here is not the actual R1 app. This is another Wi-Fi that is compatible with R1. It's called Yokomo. It's the same thing. For those wondering, oh, is it the same? Is it gonna have the same features? Yes, exact same features. Does everything the R1 Wi-Fi does. All it's doing is just cracking into the ESC. So let me show you guys what these settings do. So general, this is what I have for my settings. I never really get that ESC or the motor that hot. I only do one pass, and look at the logs. I don't really bash on it. This is, it is a RC race car, so it only has one pass in there every time almost before I start doing the logs and stuff. But anyways, scratch all that. So throttle settings, power curve. So in the power curve, that has to do with the throttle curve. So, we'll go here and, as soon as we start going up on power curve, you see the graph starts to change. That's the throttle that you were inputting. So that's how the power is going to come in. But I usually set it at 0 or 3, more or less. Excuse me. Woo! Coronavirus. Anyways. So, acceleration. Acceleration is basically how fast the car is going to come into power. That's pretty, self-explanatory. Lower the setting, less acceleration. Higher the setting, the more acceleration. And it goes from 0 to 10. So I usually have it around 5, 6, all depends on the surface. Start power. Start power is just how much power that motor is gonna generate on the start when it leaves. So if the road is very slick that you're racing on, you don't want to have 100% start power. You want to have it between, 10 to 20. All depends on how the car is liking it. I usually have mine depending on the road, like I just said. The neutral width, I leave it at normal. Smooth start rate and smooth start range. These two settings I have the most questions about, and I'm gonna explain to you guys what they do. So, smooth start rate. All these little cars have some power in them. For being on 2S, they have some pretty juicy power right off the hit. So these cars tend to spin a lot. So you do not want it to spin. That's actually hurting you more than it's benefiting you. You want, sometimes they say slow is fast. And that's true. You sometimes have to slow the car down to go faster. And I've seen it and I've done it. And it's pretty true when they say that. So smooth start rate. Those two settings work together. So if you have this setting at 0, they will not work. You need to have it set at a certain percentage of throttle. So smooth start rate, all it's doing is, from what my understanding of what I learned about it and from what I read on R1, is the car wants to slow down depending on the value. So higher the value, the more time the car is going to slow down. The less the value, the more aggressive the car is going to be on the start. So if you have it, for instance, set at 40% throttle, and you have it set at 11, the car is going to, depending on how much, like I said, higher the value, more the car is going to slow down, less the value, the more aggressive it's going to be. So I want to smooth up the car, but it's going to smoothen up to 40% throttle. And then from there, it's going to just start coming into power. So if you have it at 20% power, it's going to have that time that it's going to be slow, but it's going to be slow up to 20% throttle. So it all depends on, like I said before, all on the surface and what you're running. I go here, frequency. So frequency. I don't mess with the brake or drag. I'm doing drag racing. I'm going straight. I don't have to mess with none of those. I mess with motor frequency. Motor frequency, it's the initial hit of the acceleration. So Higher the value means smoother on the hit. It's not aggressive. It slows the car down a little bit. It brings in that power smoothly, but it's going to generate a little more heat to the ESC. That's what everyone says, and that's from what I've noticed. So you got to be careful on that. Hence why I only make 1 or 2 passes. I don't hot lap the car, because when you start turning them up to a certain extent, these cars are not really, they don't like getting hot lapped. You're going to really start messing electronics up. So I usually have mines depending on the surface. Usually I have like around 2, 3, sometimes 10. All depends how the car is handling on the road. Boost and turbo. So this setting, I get also a couple questions about it. I've seen guys where they've asked me for help and I look at their settings on the boost and they have things maxed out and the car's not even coming into power. It's coming into power right at the end of the 132 foot mark. So that's not good. You want it to come in before that. So let's get to the boost settings. This is something I want to clarify and make it very clear. I'm not saying this is how you're supposed to do it, but this is what I've learned and this is what I've been told a lot by other people that know this program pretty well. You do not want to have no higher than 60 to 62, realistically 60. You don't want no more than 60 total of boost and turbo, meaning you got to add these two up to at least 60 or more in between, you know. You don't have to be at 60, but, you know, you don't want to go higher than 60 in total. So you could have a total of 30 boost and 30 turbo. Will that work? Maybe. I don't know. But the ESC might not like it because you got to play with the ESC and find that sweet spot where it's liking that power, where it's liking everything you're doing on that settings. So to explain, boost and turbo. I don't really run much boost. I leave the boost pretty low and I run mostly turbo. This is boost minimum and boost maximum. So whatever you set this at, that's the minimum. That means when the motor reaches 50,000 RPMs, damn, I already butchered that number, my bad. So when it reaches that RPM, it's gonna start to come into boost, or I'm sorry, into turbo. Yeah, into boost. I'm sorry. So it's gonna come into boost at that RPM, and then it's gonna max out per R1. It's gonna max out at 52. I've never really seen no less than 52. I've seen higher than 52. I've seen higher than what they say that it's rated for is 65,000. Let me see. Let me show you real quick. No, it's not this setting. It's this one. So yeah, 65,000 RPMs is what it maxes out at. I've heard that you can't go any higher than 65,000 RPMs. That's BS. I'll show you guys a log now. I go higher than 65. I don't really believe too much on this, but I do see where the power starts to come in gradually towards the top. So I usually have it on the 50s, mid 50s, no higher than no higher than 60. That's like too much for me. That's the car's already not coming into power I wanted to. So turbo delay. That delays how much turbo is going to come in, or at what rate that turbo is going to come in. So if you have it set at 0, it's going to come in instantly. You set it up depending how the car is handling the road. So you set that up depending on the time frame that the car is coming into boost. I'm sorry, into turbo. Turbo slope. So this is basically how much turbo is going to come in at a rate. This is basically the rate. This is like the graph of that turbo coming in. So it's going to come in, you know, at a higher rate if you have it at less seconds, or it's going to come in a little smoother towards if you have it at higher setting, at higher seconds. You know, less the turbo slope, more aggressive. But sometimes more aggressive means it's going to break the tires loose. So you don't want that. Turbo minus slope. So from what I've read is if you go less on a time, that means it's going to have less time of that throttle. When you let go of the throttle, for instance, the car is veering off right and you let off the throttle and you have to get back on it, that little time frame is when that boost is going to come back in. So it's going to start to, that little time frame is just basically, if you let off now in 0.10 seconds, it's going to start to slow down the turbo. So meaning you want to start to probably go up on the value. I don't really mess with this setting because I don't have too much of an understanding. As you see, I can't really give you guys a pretty clear answer because I don't want to mislead anybody. But I usually have it between 15 to 20. I try to match kind of more or less this one. But it all depends on the setting. You know, if you go higher on boost, you kind of want to go a little higher on the turbo slope, so you bring it in at a smoother pace and not so aggressive. So let's look at some logs. Show you guys the log real here real quick. So let's see this one. So this one, remember I told you guys, they say you can't pass 65,000 RPMs. Well, I call BS. I have 87,000. I've seen higher RPMs than that. But those are top secret logs, so I'm not gonna show you guys. But I'm gonna show you guys something, you know, so you guys can get understanding. DRK, that ESC DRK from McLaren, it has a 3-stage launch. Now they came out with a 5-stage, whatever. R1 has similar settings. This is the 1st stage, 2nd stage, and 3rd stage. That right there is all depending on your throttle settings. However you have your throttle settings, it's gonna react to this little section right here. So if you have them all maxed out and everything's just gonna come in aggressive, you're not gonna see this. If the car hooks, it's just gonna climb up, and you're not gonna see no little ladder steps, or, you know, it's just gonna come straight up. But I have my car set up where it comes into different stages, so I can leave smoother and stay more consistent. So this is my 1st stage. Took a little long. That was probably about the first 20 feet out. Then right at the 40-foot mark, it starts to come into the 2nd stage, and then right before the 60 or at the 60, it starts to come into the 3rd stage, full power, and it starts to slowly start to gradually go up on power. So that's more or less a log that I have. Let me see if I can find you a better log. Well, that one's pretty smooth. I mean, it had a little hiccups. Not really much of a good log to show. Let me see. Not so good. I'm trying to find you guys a good log so you guys can get an idea. You know, what I usually get on a pass. But I can't find something good. Whatever. We'll just, we'll use this one. Perfect. Look at this one. Smooth. See that graph? That's more or less what you want to see. Something smooth starts to come in. Notice the voltage. Started off, I actually had about 8.4 volts, but R1 sometimes on the log it reads 8.1 volts, whatever, on like start, but no big deal. So I didn't have too much of a voltage drop, which is something good, because usually some guys on their logs, when they punch it, their ESC starts to drop down very low on the voltage, and that has to do with your battery as well. So you don't want this to drop down and then keep dropping down. You want this it's always gonna have that little drop, because you know you're pushing a lot of you're punching in. It's a lot of juice that battery's pulling out to provide the car to get going. So you're always gonna have that little voltage drop. Same thing with the current. It's gonna have a spike, then a drop, and then a come back up again. Now if you spike and come down, that's even better, man. You guys have a killer tune-up if that's what it's doing. But anyways, enough chit chat. This is pretty much the log of a smooth log. Look at that voltage drop, consistent all the way through. Let's show you guys one more time. Right here, 7.4, 7.2, 7.1, all the way through, and it held that same voltage. That right there is a beautiful pass. That pass right there, that car went dead straight. It went fast, and it was smooth. That's what you want. You don't want something so aggressive and it's inconsistent, because inconsistency does not win you races. But that's pretty much it. You know, that's pretty much it about the R1 and what the features do and how each setting works. This is my car. It's a undercover chassis. It's a hammer chassis. I run a Team Power Products motor, and I run obviously, as you guys know, the R1 ESC. And that's pretty much it. And this is the battery I've been using. That's the log I got out with this battery. It's a really good battery, man. It's for the price, you can't beat it. I got 2 batteries, 130 something shipped at my door. This is the drag pack battery, the SMC 150C. A lot of guys run the max amps like this. They run one of these. They usually run this too. They run something like this, or the bigger version, but this battery's pretty good, but I guess I kind of overused it or something, and I guess the battery doesn't hold that much voltage anymore. So whenever I put it in the car and I make a log or make a pass, that thing drops to like 5.6 volts. That's horrible. You don't want that. So I think those batteries are no good, but that's pretty much going to wrap up this video for today. I'm just trying to give you guys an explanation, trying to help more of the RC prep community of understanding of how the R1 works. I know a lot of guys are jumping on the DRK bandwagon, but I'm not talking smack. I'm just saying, hey, R1 has potential. You know, many people said that that they didn't want to run R1 because of that whole disclaimer they had that they're not providing, you know, warranty. But hey, if you know what you're doing, you don't have to break the ESC. You don't have to mess up the ESC. Knock on wood. But the ESC does just good enough, and I'm barely even maxing it out. I have yet to go. I'm just still learning it as we go. I'm pretty knowledgeable now with the ESC and what each setting does, and I've seen the improvements, or I've seen the effects of each change that I do on the settings. So that's why I'm making this video, to kind of give you guys an explanation of what I found and what I found to works, you know. So hey, man, appreciate you guys watching the video. Like I always, give a thumbs up, subscribe, share the video, and if you guys are